Hello everyone. In this video I'm going to show you how to use one of the commands in a drafting environment called model items, and it is used for when the three major views of the part cannot reveal all the dimensions that you need in the part, and even if you do a section view or might use auxiliary view, they are not necessarily going to make those entities that you want accessible. For example, here you have the cage for a ball bearing, right? This is half of the cage inside the ball bearing, and then 8 balls will sit against these surfaces. So the way that this part is made in 3D is, first we had an extrusion like this, and this extrusion had two diameters, 86 and 94, and the thickness was 16. Then we applied a cut revolve, which basically has the sphere with a diameter of 24, and then basically that was a revolve cut through the one single part, and then you had the fillets on the corners where the dimension of the fillet, as you can see, is 2.1. And then this fillet and this cut revolve were patterned with the circular pattern 8 instances. And then to get rid of this bottom thickness, we use the shell command here with a typical thickness of 1.5 mils. And then finally we had a hole, right, where the hole was basically with a diameter of, as you can see, 2 mils. And then we patterned this hole 8 times again. Okay, so this is how this part is made. Now, what is the problem? The problem is when we want to go to the drafting, we want to provide all these dimensions, right, for somebody who is going to have an understanding of this. So this is the front view, this is the top view, and the right view here is a copy of the top view, so I'm not going to show that here. I only have the front and the top. And the problem is some of these dimensions are not easily accessible in drafting. Let me show you what I mean. So here, let's say these are the views, and I want to add all the dimensions that I need. So what should I do? First, I go with the smart dimension, and I provide the inner diameter and what? The outer diameter. And if it shows it as radius, you make sure that you always show it as what? As a diameter. You never want to show the radius for a full circle, right? Because this is a what? This is a full circle. You always want to basically show it as diameter, like this. And then you repeat the same thing for the outer circle, right? And again, this one, you want to show it as diameter as well. So you go here and you show as diameter. So these two are good. The other thing you can do, again, is accessible are these holes, right? So it's phi of 2, and then you say 8 times that, correct? And then these holes are through, so you say through. So far, everything was good. No worries. Everything was done with the smart dimension. Now, let's say I want to provide what? I want to provide the fillet radius for these fillets here, right? How do I do that? So if I use this smart dimension, and it doesn't matter whether you use any of these options or just go with smart dimension. Now, if you try to access this, look, you see, it's not taking it. If you try to access this, it's not taking it. If you try to access this, it's not taking it. Why? Because they are not perpendicular, they're not projected perpendicular to the top view. And if you go in the front view and say, hey, can I do it maybe over here? You see, that is showing something that is not related. If you do it with this one, again, it's not going to show the fillet radius. And the right view is exactly similar to what? To your top view. And even if I do a section view, it's not going to take it. Even if I do an auxiliary view, which first of all, I don't have any edge for an auxiliary view. Even if I create one and do it, in no view, there's 3D curvature because it has a curvature in one direction and it's also rotating about the center. So it has two curvatures. So you're never going to get it to be perfectly right. And so there is no place that you can add the fillet radius for this, right? And it's not, this smart dimension is not going to simply work. So here you click on model items. This is a dimension that is coming from 3D, from what you have in 3D. And now here you try to see if you can catch what? This radius over here, right? And look, you see that? It says, hey, radius is what? 2.1 and it's typical. You see, I could easily provide the fillet radius just with what? With model items when the smart dimension was not working. Or let's say I want the thickness of this metal, which is all over constant 1.5 mils. Remember, we use the shell command. So if I want to provide the model thickness here, what do I do? Again, if I use the smart dimension and I say, hey, what is the offset between this one and this one? It kind of gives it to me in this case because these two are parallel. But if you do it between other entities, it's not necessarily easily doable. You see, these guys, it cannot get. Okay, so it's not going to happen. So I can use a model item, and here I provide, you see, I just needed to even click on one of the edges, and that would give me the thickness. I did not even need to click on two edges. Once I click on it, it say, hey, this is what? This is the thickness of the model typical, right? And it gives me all of that. Now, one of the other things that it might do is it brings other dimensions from 3D that you have already placed on the part, like this 96, 94, this 86. So if you don't want them, you can just go ahead and delete them, okay? Whatever thing that you don't want, you go ahead and get rid of it. And if you want to add more explanations, you can add more explanations here, right? So, okay, for example, typical fillet radius, right? So they have an idea of what is this exactly. Say, hey, this is the typical fillet radius, or this one is what? The typical thickness, or something like that. So they have a better idea of what is it that you're talking about. Okay, now that I have everything, the last thing I need is the diameter of that circle I used, or half circle I used for cut revolve to make these sitting areas for the balls. And for that, what I need is basically a diameter, right? I need a diameter. And for that, again, I can use my what? I can use my 3D information. So I go again to the model, and all I need is to click on this arc. Look, and it gives me that phi of 24 here, which I can bring out like that. And then again, if there is any extra information that you don't care about, you can get rid of it. So look here, you see, I got my typical thickness, I got the typical fillet radius, I got this phi of 24, which is for this sitting area, and I have all of the rest of the information. So this is how you use this command model items to get the dimensions that you want in 3D. They are available, but in 2D with the smart dimension, they are not accessible. Hopefully this video was useful to you. I'll see you in the next lecture.